The spiritual impulse is an impulse that comes from something bigger than, something outside of the egoic makeup. And that is the impulse towards of life, of God, of totality, to become self-aware. Awakening is when the whole becomes aware of itself, when eternity becomes self-aware. That's what's happening in a deeply awakened person. It's that self-consciousness, that consciousness is being utilized by something greater than their egocentric makeup. And that's a weird thing to think of. That's a really, really weird idea if you contemplate it all. Because you start to realize, you mean like life is unfolding like completely asleep at the wheel until it's conscious through somebody? Pretty much. The great psychiatrist Carl Jung had a really shocking idea, which I think is absolutely true, but who cares what I think? And his idea was that God is unconscious. Just look at the stories of God, and a lot of the stories the stories of many religions, God behaves for a lot of it in a very unconscious way. Not even up to the standards of egocentric behavior. Far below that. Why is that? Why is this mythologized in so many stories? Of course, we remember when God is behaving like a perfect saint. That's what we remember, right? That's what we remember, because that's what we want to hear. That's what we want to think. Read the other 80% of the stories. So his idea was also that part of what's happening in all these myths, these religious stories, it's the story of God becoming conscious through human beings. It's a heck of an idea. I'm not saying you have to believe in it, but it's not a bad thing to ponder for a while. And if pondering it as God is too big, or you just don't relate to that word, you can just think of it as life itself. Just life. And any moment of real, anything that we would call awakening is a moment of, see, what we think, because of the way we're conditioned to think about this, what we imagine beforehand is that what happens is I awaken. But anybody that's ever really deeply awakened, they don't believe that. They know that that's not really what happens. The whole awakens. The whole awakens through the individual. Well, of course, if you've got to talk, you don't want to talk in such a way nobody can understand you, so you'll use the word I, of course. But the experience is much more like the Buddha had said, I and all beings and all things everywhere has suddenly realized great liberation, which is saying the experience here is that the whole world woke up. And of course, the limited human mind says, well, wait a minute, I didn't. Glad you think that we all woke up, Buddha, but apparently a few of us got missed away, Because we mistake a statement like that. We forget that a statement of that is a statement of experience. It's not a statement of metaphysics. It's not a philosophical statement. As I said, the whole wakes up through the individual. So when the individual awakens, it's actually the whole awakening, but it's awakening through the individual. So why is that important? I mean, there's a part of this that's just, well, I want to awaken because I want to have that experience, or I have awakened and I like how it's going for me, or whatever it is. But if you just entertain the possibility, just play with it a little bit, that possibly what's actually is happening is, and I would suggest this is the case, that whenever we have any true awakening is really the whole awakes up through the individual, which means the whole becomes just a bit more awake, a bit more self-aware, a bit more self-conscious, maybe infinitesimally, but a bit more nonetheless. So that means it has a significance and importance that far transcends the individual. In other words, it's more important than me and you. There might be something that's important about it as far as us. When I say us, I don't even mean just us human beings. I mean all beings, us, all of us. Right? Because we are so powerful human beings. The state of our consciousness means something. In fact, it means a lot. In fact, as far as life is concerned, it couldn't possibly mean more, because we have the power to destroy it. So it's pretty important how conscious we are, how conscious this whole becomes, how many individuals is that awakened consciousness functioning through. Because of course the whole of us, you take all of us as a whole of us is just composed of individuals. And our state of consciousness as a whole is a sort of an average of all of us as individuals, put all together. And in the modern day, I think if we can see anything, one of the things that's so disquieting to, I think, a lot of people is we see how much unconsciousness is playing itself out in life. A lot. Talking about asleep at the wheel. And you're in the car, and so is every other life form on the earth. And the driver's not even half awake. It has a martini in its hand. And so we're very vulnerable to all sorts of ideological possession, the possession of an idea, of an ideology, of a group identity. So it goes on and on and on. It's not a right thing or a left thing, it's a human thing. So it means something. It actually means something. It's not just about, will I get awake? Will I have my enlightenment? Will my life improve? Will things get better for me? I mean, that's, of course, one hopes that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But my goodness, if it's not clear that the stakes are a bit bigger than that, I don't know how life can make it more clear. That how conscious we are really actually has impact, really means something. Even if each one of us is seemingly an infinitesimally small part of what goes in to make this average consciousness of human beings, nonetheless, it'd be an interesting world if each person took whatever amount of responsibility they could for that. Who knows what would happen?